Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sarah Zenaida Gould, and I'm the Executive Director of the Mexican American Civil Rights Institute. We're glad you're with us tonight. Please tell us where you're joining from in the chat. Tonight, we continue our virtual summer road trip series to learn about Mexican American history around the country. We are joined by Jesús Najar, Architectural Programs Manager at Preservation Texas, which is a nonprofit organization that empowers Texans to preserve their cultural heritage and stewards significant buildings, collections, and cultural landscapes to ensure their permanent protection. They recently released their annual Most Endangered Places list, which is one of their signature programs and has spotlighted threatened historic places across Texas since 2004. This year's list includes several sites connected to Mexican American history. So we've invited Jesus to share more about these historic sites with us and share what we can do to help support efforts to preserve Mexican American history in the built environment. I also just want to remind you that we have previously presented some MACRI talks on different places of historic significance that were threatened. You can find those talks on our YouTube channel. Those include a talk on Segundo Barrio and Duranguito and El Paso, one on Rio Vista Farm, one on the Blackwell School in Marfa, Texas, and one on the Wharton Little School of the 400. So those are all on our YouTube channel. And as usual, if you have any questions for our guest, please put them in the chat and we'll try to answer them before our hour is up. Welcome, Jesus.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Sarah Zenaida, for this invitation and for MACRI for having us in this wonderful evening. We're really happy to share with you our work and the type of advocacy we do for Hispanic sites, but not only for Hispanic sites across Texas, but also all sorts of other type of built heritage in our beloved state of Texas. All right. So I work for Preservation Texas, and my role is as an architectural programs manager. I joined the organization early this year, and so I'm just newly part of the team, and I'm very excited to be working in all of our projects throughout the state. As Sarah just was mentioning, just a few weeks ago, we launched our Most Endangered Places list for 2024, and includes about 4 sites that are related to Hispanic and Tejano heritage. Most of them located on the Rio Grande Valley, but we have a couple of those here in Central Texas as well. So I'll just do a brief presentation of the sites that were included, and everybody's welcome to ask as many questions as needed, and we'll go over that. Just let me give some play it so we can go over that. All right. So this is our. Sorry about this. Can you see the map now? Probably not.
Yeah, we're seeing your logo.
Yeah, let me reshare it again because it was not working. All right. I hope you can see our map. This is our signature program of Preservation Texas. Since 2004, we have spotlighted all the imperiled historic sites across the state. And this is how we're looking now in terms of coverage. The Most Endangered Places list is designed to draw statewide attention to endangered places so local advocates can build momentum towards protection. Just examples of places listed in the past. We have El Azteca neighborhood in Laredo, which was threatened by all sorts of issues like demolition by neglect, inappropriate uh, remodelings, and also the expansion of the border station, which is just adjoining to the neighborhood. This is a very rich neighborhood, um, and there was some talks of expanding the bus processing station in Laredo, and that would the footprint increasing and potentially having to demolish historic structures that are just right next to it. Uh, the current status of that project, for instance, is it's no longer is not going to happen anymore, and but the neighborhood still faces different threats in terms of demolition and in terms of uh, land use changes, etc. But we also have sort of good examples of success stories like the San Agustin Cathedral. That was part of our list in 2019, and was suffering of different type of structural uh, stability issues that were just recently corrected, and he was um, he was the recipient of one of our honor awards. So every other year, we recognized the efforts to restore, preserve, and rehabilitate historic places that have been included in our most endangered list. So the places that are actually saved and rehabbed and brought back to public use, they received an honor award. So just earlier this year, the cathedral and the committee that was part of this project received this award, and it was quite a quite a good confirmation for the community that making awareness of these type of places and really working towards their rehabilitation have a good impact. So that's what we want to highlight, that their historic preservation is a something that is feasible, that we can do it, and we can preserve these spaces for the enjoyment of all Texans. So we're going to go over the sites that were nominated this year. And I'll start with the Odell Rodriguez store and post office. This is in Hidalgo, Texas, at the very south part of our state. It was built in 1899, and it is included in the National Register of Historic Places as part of the Hidalgo Historic District, the Courthouse Historic District, and it's also individually recognized as a recorded Texas historic landmark. These are a few photos that were sent by the nomination, and it's a city-owned property that it's been sitting vacant for quite some time. The city of Hidalgo uses it for storage. As you can see, it's a small structure, and it has a dwelling right next to it, and on the same parcel. We're also including a photo of when it was first designated as a historical landmark, and you can see the medallion on one of the facades in the lower left photo, the black and white photo. So the threats that were identified by the nomination were deterioration of the brick masonry, and on the main store building, and on the adjacent dwelling, the roof has collapsed, and it's just open to the elements and open to vagrants and such. What we're trying to do here is to call attention to city officials to make a better use of this building and integrate it to the economic fabric of the city, and to really complement and be part of the series of other historic buildings that are already been restored in the area, and we'll go over that shortly. The reason why we're including this project or this particular building is it has architectural details that really resemble the work of the master builder of the 19th century, Heinrich Porscheller, which is a Prussian immigrant, a German immigrant that came to the Rio Grande Valley in the late 1800s and did a lot of work in places like Roma, Rio Grande City, Laredo, and left an impressive built legacy with these brick buildings throughout the valley, but also formed a series of apprentices and really developed the brick industry on both sides of the Rio Grande. So that's the work. While the Odell store and post office really is not, we haven't confirmed the who's the author of this building. It's believed that it may be one of the works of Porscheller or one of his apprentices. So this is the reason why it's important, because it's part of the border vernacular architecture that we see on both sides of the Rio Grande, and it's important part of the built heritage for Hidalgo. The building is located in downtown, but downtown is pretty much at the edge of town. Most of the modern town of Hidalgo has developed away from the Rio, from the actual river. So sitting at a very important intersection. There's other historic brick buildings in that area, and most notably the old Hidalgo courthouse, which was just recently restored. This building has lost the second building and its cupola, and it was just brought back and put back and restored through grants and funding from the state of Texas, and also city funding, county funding, and private funding. So our appeal, our call to the city is to now look into this building to really make it part of its historic district, and so it can be reopened for public use and really contribute to the whole economy for that part of Hidalgo County. Any questions so far before I go to the next building in sight?
No questions posted yet.
Okay. The other building that was listed this year is the San Juan Hotel. This is located in San Juan, Texas, right? Also in their central business district. It was built in 1920 and is also an RTHL, Recorded Texas Historic Landmark. These are a few photos of the hotel throughout the years. As you can see on the lower left, there's a black and white photo of the hotel in operation in the 1950s. Then on the right-hand side, also photos of later on the 60s and 70s, where it was still in use and operation, and just above that, just more recent photos of its current condition. So this hotel, it was a series of hotels that were built in the Rio Grande Valley to provide accommodations to travelers and to all the entrepreneurs that were opening up the Rio Grande Valley for agricultural business. As we know, this is an important agricultural area that attracted a lot of visitors, immigrants, and people that wanted to do business with the newly opened irrigation districts that were done in the Rio Grande Valley. So the style of the hotel is Spanish colonial revival, and it was this idea to kind of link the South Texas with Old Mexico, and provide this sort of romantic backdrop for business, for travel, for leisure, for all of the architecture in all these cities. So each of the cities in that part of South Texas have a sort of counterpart, a similar establishment, and a lot of them have been restored and are still in use throughout that area. San Juan, though, as their main hotel has been shut down for a couple decades now, and it's being it's being vandalized, it's deteriorating, and it's calling everybody's attention because it's one of the most iconic pieces of architecture for that community. The community is really attached to this site. It's been part of its main street, part of the cultural landscape, and just recently was acquired by the city of San Juan to make it part of their downtown revitalization program. This is the location of the San Juan Hotel. If you see the orange sort of square, that's where it's located. In red, you'll see highlighted the properties that are owned by the city of San Juan. Just south of that, on the sort of a southeast corner of Nebraska and 6th Street, they just completed the new city hall. So they closed one of the streets to expand that whole parcel and built this brand new city hall. Just south on Nebraska Avenue, that's where the old city hall used to be. Well, that is now the new site for the fire station. So just recently, in November of last year, the city government purchased the land where the San Juan Hotel sits, and as part of the sort of vision that they have for downtown, they're targeting that particular site for an event or a conference center, in which the old hotel may or may not be part of that scheme. So that's very concerning because the building is, as we said, one of the last and sort of most visible remainders of the historic San Juan community. And from what we've been seeing, that is being shared by the city officials and the architectural firm that is working with the city, the plans is pretty much to demolish it and to really not use anything that is standing from the building. This is an image that was shared by the architectural team that is working with the city. Obviously, is a sort of preliminary view of ideas that they're floating for reuse of the site. So the only thing that they're sort of salvaging is the cornice detail of the hotel. But the idea is to turn this space to conference center or to open it for private development, and as you can see, provide retail spaces at the street side, at the front side along US 83. Which is quite unfortunate. There's been all sorts of meetings and appeals from the community to kind of change the the plans for this, but is there, they haven't been quite successful. The architectural team that is working with the city does not have a historic preservation angle to it, and they really don't seem to have the expertise to think more creatively in how to reuse the historic building for another purpose, reusing the existing footprint, the materials, and the building itself to turn it into another viable use, or really integrate the conference center with the existing building. But we have not seen anything like that. We have there the Hidalgo County Historical Commission really pushing for alternatives, and really pushing the city officials to come up with another plan for this property, because it would really be quite an impact to lose such a resource in such a visible location, and really getting rid of the only and most sort of iconic building for that city. So that's something that we're really working and monitoring here, and hopefully they'll find a good resolution and a good end. Just to go back on the Del Rodriguez store and post office in Hidalgo, in the actual town of Hidalgo, the city has shown the will, and they're coming up right now with a plan, with a preservation plan and use and reuse of that facility. So that's very positive news. Whereas here in San Juan, we have not seen sort of that interest so far. So that's something from all of the sites that we have this year. The San Juan Hotel is the one that is probably the one that is the most imminent threat so far, because it's probably going to happen in a very short term. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about sites here on our Central Texas region, and I'll start with the Institute of Texan Cultures. This is located in San Antonio, right there in downtown. It was built in 1968, and just recently was listed in the National Register of Historic Places, and also was designated as a state antiquities landmark. So that's very positive for this building. So this the Institute of Texan Cultures is housed in what used to be the Texas Pavilion for the Hemisphere 1968, which is the World's Fair that took place in San Antonio that year. It was built to house the state of Texas Pavilion as the host state for this World's Fair. They have a prominent site, a prominent place in what is known now as Hemisphere, and it's a really large building that showcased all the contributions that Texas has given to the world, and it was built to accommodate a large number of visitors. So the program and the architecture responds to that, as we can see, with large gathering spaces, public plazas all around, large hallways and bridges that connected and walkways that connected to the rest of the Hemisphere campus. It was designed by the renowned Mexican American architect Willie Peña. He was part of a larger architectural firm, and although he's not necessarily listed as the main architect. We know that he had a work. He had a great deal of contribution for this building. Um, the inspiration for this building is the pre-Columbian architecture that we see in Mexico or Peru or anywhere in Mesoamerica, with an inverted pyramid shape that is built inside of a bermed site, and you can see that in the lower left photo. It's quite compelling, quite iconic and monumental. The scale and the shape, it's obviously built in concrete, so it sort of has that uh, late mid-century modern architecture style of architecture, now known as brutalist, because of its use of hard materials like concrete. Here in this case is a white concrete with exposed aggregate. It also has some Texas uh, materials like the pink granite that we see used in the walls and as paving material. So it's quite a piece. But more importantly, this building is relevant because after at the end of the World's Fair, the state of Texas uh, targeted this building to remain as part of the campus of Hemisphere, and and to contribute to the culture of San Antonio. As you may know, World Fairs have a collection of buildings of different uh, natures, different sizes, different type of temporary and permanent uses. Most of the buildings that we see in World Fairs are just disassembled at the end of the event and not put back. But sometimes there's a handful of buildings that are built to serve for longer, and they're become permanent and fixtures, and really a contributing part of the urban fabric and the cultural landscape. So this building in particular, along with other ones, and the other few ones, like obviously the Tower of Americas, which is such a large building, was targeted to be and destined to be a permanent site. So that's important. But also the other part is that the state of Texas entrusted UTSA, the University of Texas and San Antonio, to use this building to continue the 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 story of showcasing, highlighting, and promoting all the cultures, all the cultural groups that made Texas what it is now. Um, so, and this is before we had the Bullock Museum in Austin. So this was the official state of Texas museum, and it did such a great job as telling us the story of all the groups that participated, that emigrated to Texas, participated and contributed, and had a wonderful exhibit that is really hard to replicate anywhere else. So the importance of this site for us is its unique architecture. The that is one of their last remaining um, buildings on the Hemisphere site, and the institution is such an institution that needs to be that was designed to be in that building, and we would hope that it would continue there. Right now, the University of Texas in San Antonio has other plans for this site, and right now the Institute of Texan Cultures is packing up and moving out of this location. It just closed on end of May, and we're going to be they're going to be temporarily relocating to the Frost Tower, where the Frost people have given them some space to house their exhibits in the meantime, and while they look for another site and another building to have their operations. So right now, this is how the building looks. It's now closed to the public, and while they come up with their the new use. Uh, it's just these are just a few views of actually today. We went to do a quick visit today. Um, right outside of building, we have as well samples of different building types of Texas that were recreated in the 1980s and 1980s and 1990s to provide a sort of a visual overview of all the different type of architecture that we see in Texas. So we have an sort of a rendition of an adobe home, Texas Fort architecture with stone masonry, a schoolhouse, and a log cabin. It's just a really important site as far as teaching us not just the non-tangible contributions of Texans, but also the very tangible, in this case, built legacy of all the ethnic groups that made up Texas. So one of the has been one of the ideas that has been floating out there that we obviously we don't know what's going to be the ultimate use of this site is to provide another venue for sports for the city of San Antonio, which for us we think is probably not that feasible just by comparing the size of the ITC where it sits compared to the Alamo Dome, which is right next to it on the other side of I-37. Just to accommodate any sports venue there, and the parking space that would be sort of impossible. So we hope that UTSA has a good plan to really make it part of the urban fabric. The city, the site is just right immediately of residential neighborhoods. We have obviously issues of affordable housing all over the city, but this is an area that is obviously impacted by new development that may or may not consider existing neighbors, economic pressures, and available land. We have very established neighborhoods that like the King William district right there, but we also have rental properties, and really the site doesn't lend itself to a high intensity use that would be a sports venue. Right now, the way it is, it really lends itself to continue as a cultural institution or as academic use. It has plenty of parking opportunities right there within the footprint of within the boundaries of Hemisphere Park, and we think it can continue as such. They would just need to explore how to adaptively reuse the building for whatever other use. All right. Just to end, we'll go over the University Junior High School in Austin, Texas. This building was built in 1933, and it's listed in the National Register of Historic Places. This is a very unique site in which back in the 1930s, UT Austin partnered with the local school district to create a hybrid of a junior high that would be within the UT campus that could be a good opportunity for students to um, get acquainted to the campus life and to really connect them to a college life by having a school right embedded in the UT campus. It served primarily to the Mexican American community and also to the African American community. There used to be a neighborhood actually right next to it, and where the building used to sit, where the building sits, and it was really integrated in the urban fabric. But also integrated within the community. It was a very successful and peaceful integration of students of different classes and different uh, backgrounds and different ethnicities, and where everybody worked harmoniously to be part of the the school life. And we know that Austin had a um, very delineated, very strict zoning and ordinance in which certain groups were excluded and from living or purchasing property on the west side of town. But the the this school really kind of bridged the gap between the two sides of Austin and provided a great example of integration, and that's been celebrated, throughout its entire history. Um, Later, when the schools were integrated and the redistricting of the schools was needed, the site became part of the UT program, and it was turned into the School of Social Work, and which is its current use, a School of Social Work. Uh, Unfortunately, where it sits, as we can see, is surrounded by new uses, new athletic uses. Um, it really sits at the southeast edge of campus, and is a little bit disjointed from the rest of uh, the UT campus. It was obviously planned that way. It was sort of an auxiliary facility, but later integrated to the rest of campus life. Uh, Now, as with the growth of the athletic programs there at UT, it finds itself surrounded by way larger buildings and facilities, and really becomes this sort of last piece of the puzzle for this very powerful program, which is the UT athletics. From what we're hearing, this site is slated to become a football training facility for UT, for the Longhorns, because of its location. It sits right there in the middle, and it's easy to get to. But obviously, the site, obviously, the building is a historic building, and is recognized by its architecture. As you can see here in the aerial photo, it really follows the same pattern, the same design, and the same style and architecture of the rest of the UT campus. So it's not sort of this oddball that really doesn't fit within UT. It is a building that feels very much like the rest of UT, although its origins is as a junior high. Uh, it really was designed by the same architects, the same university architects, and the same um, designer that sort of dictated the style, the Spanish colonial revival style that we see in the, for instance, in the UT Tower, and the rest of the buildings that we now recognize as sort of the UT brand. So in that regards, it would be a shame to really erase that part of the the history of integration in Austin, erase that part of the history of UT as an institution, and really give up such a beautiful site that it's perfectly fine and is usable and is in good condition. It hasn't been neglected. It's still like the viable home for the School of Social Work. They obviously now they're asked to relocate to another site while they have a new uh, building built for them, or and they're the ones that actually nominated this site because they were just surprised one day to receive an email to say, hey, you have to pack up because we're going to move you out of this building and give it to UT Athletics. So um, just in the upcoming um, commission meeting for the Texas Historical Commission, they're going to be reviewing the application for this site, for this building, to become a state antiquities landmark. That would provide a little bit more oversight from the Texas Historical Commission to really, or open the opportunity to regulate whatever happens to this site in terms of physical changes. We know that unfortunately, uh, higher ed institutions in Texas are exempt from this a review from Texas Historical Commission. So there is still a big risk of, even with the SAL, the state antiquities landmark designation, it will sort of escape that scrutiny, that review, and will end up demolished or highly modified. So this is where we are as far as our most endangered sites, and I'm happy to take any questions from the public or from you, Sarah, based on
Mhm.
what you guys have seen.
Yes, please, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat and we will try to answer them. I did want to ask you a couple of things as you were talking that occurred to me. The buildings that you focused on tonight, those four, they really span a lot of time, from the earliest one built at the turn of the century, the Odell Rodriguez, to the most recent one, the Institute of Texan Cultures, which opened in 1968. So that's a long time span. In your experience, what is more challenging, saving a building that's over 100 years old, or saving a building that's more recent but still old, like 1968?
I don't think that age necessarily, or the materials, or the size uh, are impediment for making an argument to save a building. Or really, in our experience, we've seen that all sorts of building can be in threat or at risk. And as far as making an argument, or to the general public or to city officials about the value of a building, it really resides on what each community values, what's most immediate to them, and what information they have. Sometimes really the main problem is the lack of information. So once they know how important this building is, for a community, that makes up that ends up becoming the sort of the turning point, and what really changes the mind on public perception on why this is important.
Mm,
That's what I would see. And yeah, obviously each side has its own challenges as far as level of deterioration, or the type of expertise needed to uh, save structurally stabilize or restore a particular site. But yeah, I mean, we found good reception for most of our sites. There's really people that value recent past, uh, like the 1960s architecture that we've seen with the ITC. That for some other people they're not as interested in that. So our job is really come from different angles and provide uh, different arguments for the preservation of historic buildings across Texas, not just say, oh, well, this is important because just this one aspect, because then it doesn't end up resonating with a larger audience. So when we are talking about advocating for historic buildings, it's important to really look at a larger picture uh, and to be able to transcend different levels of understanding and really be able to build a strong case. Um,
And I do just think a common thing that you hear when a building is being threatened, and even though that building, and in this case, I think all of these buildings have met certain what we might think of as threshold requirements to qualify for anybody being concerned about its future, and that's being listed on the National Register of Historic Places, maybe being a state antiquities landmark. But when one of those buildings is demolished, why does it matter?
well, for instance, this year we really made an effort to we pivoted a little bit and changed our requirements to be designated on this list. We're really now requiring for a site or a building to be listed somewhere to be recognized by the authority. Uh, and the reason to do that is to highlight that even when you have a a a recognition from either the state or the federal level, there are a lot of sites throughout the state that are endangered. So that is sort of a way for us to raise the flag and call the attention that there's a lot more than we need to do. And if we are showing to everybody that places that are already been designated are endangered, that means that other buildings in your community probably face, similar challenges, if not higher than that, more difficult. Um, so, so yeah, our call is to, uh, and really the purpose of this program is to show Texans that right there in your community or pretty close, there are historic resources that are at risk, in peril, and that just by garnering interest and support from many, we can save them. The idea of this campaign is to gather support from everybody and to put some pressure to the people that are proposing or that are not taking care of that resource. I hope that
Right.
kind of answers.
Yeah, and I want to maybe connect this a little bit to MACRI's mission. So MACRI's mission is to increase the public's knowledge of, awareness of Mexican American civil rights history, because a lot of people, including a lot of Mexican Americans, just don't know how much Mexican Americans have worked tirelessly to advance democracy. And that's history that we should know because it helps us understand who we are, and it helps us understand um, that, that we shouldn't take our rights for granted because somebody had to fight for those rights for us. Um, and I think that when we talk about the built environment and places where Mexican Americans have made a mark on the landscape, we should be able to look around and say, oh, there's a place that, had some significance to Mexican American history. And when those places are threatened with demolition, and let's just say, in fact, it gets demolished, it's very difficult to say we had an impact there. We had an impact there, because you can't see it anymore.
That's right.
When you can see history, it makes it feel a lot more real. And we may know that Willie Pena, this amazing award-winning, internationally recognized Mexican-American architect, designed, for example, the Institute of Texan Cultures. But once it's gone, there's no way for us to point and say, hey, that's where Willie Pena made a mark. That's where one of the first Mexican Americans with not one but two architecture degrees, built a building in downtown San Antonio. So when we lose those things, we lose kind of a tie to this history that, maybe I had nothing to do with it. Maybe none of my ancestors had anything to do with it, but people like me had something to do with that. And I think those are things that are visible reminders of how we have contributed to society. And to just speak to the National Register of Historic Places, it's something like less than 2% of sites on the National Register are connected to U.S. Latino history. That's a problem when we don't see ourselves in those places. It makes it seem like we haven't left a mark.
Right. Yeah, and yes, this is an opportunity to talk about those stories, and unfortunately, it's not not the best case when they're under threat, but it's still nonetheless an opportunity to say, hey, that, like you say, there's an important contribution here of Hispanics and Tejanos in different shapes now, not just as designers, but also as entrepreneurs, like we saw in the Rodriguez store in Hidalgo. I mean, there were business owners there, renowned architects there, also, students that happen to be part of history by integrating with their peers of different races. And it's such a powerful testament of having a place that signifies the unification of all what makes us great, in under a roof, under just a school building that we, like you say, we take for granted. So that's why these are important, and really talking to the larger story of, and why it's important also to come from different angles, is that the loss of those sites not only reflects that we are going to be losing places that represent us, but they're also come to the detriment of the communities as a whole if we don't have those sites. Because I may still, being as a Hispanic, may still feel represented by the struggles of African Americans or Anglos or whoever had a life here in the state of Texas. And what we're trying to do here is really talk about all those stories and make a case that by losing these sites, we're not able to really look into the future if we're losing that perspective. So yes, in particular, the sites that we highlighted this evening really talk about the great stories of Hispanics, Latinos, and Tejanos throughout the state. And we hope that people recognize that and they're able to identify themselves and talk to their, city, county, state officials and help us, help us saving them. And in this case, all four have a sort of a government entity behind them. And, in two of them, we have higher ed institutions, and two other ones we have city governments. So in this, a lot of the times we deal with private owners, etc., in which public input is kind of difficult to be given or gathered or plugged in in this case, with all these four sites, there is a mandate from government and government entities to really listen to the public, because we're as taxpayers, we're the ones that are making those spaces and those big projects that they have possible, you know, and that's an impact on our economic contributions. So we have a voice, we have a say in all this, and yeah, like you say, it's important that we continue the conversation, and we continue telling those stories, and we continue preserving those sites. If they're gone, there's not going to be a way to relate to them.
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah. So for anybody who wants to maybe throw their support behind any of this, what should they do? Do they go to your website? What do they do?
Yeah, so our website is a pretty robust database of all the sites that have been nominated throughout the years, of sites that relate to many other topics. And this year, we launched the list a few weeks ago, and as you browse the list, you'll see that there's different needs, and we state and on each of the narratives what are we looking for, what is the type of collaboration or end result that we're looking for on when we're dealing with city officials or the owners of that site, and how to participate. So basically, yeah, in these cases in particular, is really talking to the most immediate authority that is in charge of these sites. We're of course, just like MACRI, we are a nonprofit organization, so we rely on memberships and donations from the public, for also private funding. So any type of financial support that we can receive so for us to continue our work in promoting and preserving all the sites that make Texas what it is very helpful. So your contributions are important, as well as your sharing these stories with the general public. We're fortunate to have a very good media coverage for our places this year.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get very interesting surprises from private developers that they end up seeing the site and say, you know what, I may buy and purchase that site and rehabilitate it. And we've seen those stories, and actually there is an interest from someone in East Texas to potentially put money to save the San Juan Hotel, because once there's a participation from the public, private sector, it opens up for incentives that are available for rehabilitation, like tax credits from both the state and federal level. So yeah, we get very pleasant surprises from the public just by sharing these stories, and we end up finding people that end up donating or giving money or lending their expertise to save or and restore those places. So anything that your public can do is very well received.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Well, you can go to preservationtexas.org to find out more about this year's list. And we only talked about 4 of the sites on the list. There's more sites. And you can also see all the sites from previous years on their website. So thank you so much, Jesus, for telling us about those sites tonight. If you liked tonight's presentation, we have more events coming up, including the next stop on our virtual road trip, which will be Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. Central. We'll be going to Wisconsin to learn from Dr. Sergio Gonzalez about the history of Mexican Americans in Wisconsin. We have a busy summer of programs. Please go to somosmacri.org to find out more about all of the upcoming programs that we have for you. And I also just want to say a big thank you To all of our funders who make programs like tonight's possible, I want to thank the City of San Antonio, Bexar County, the Mellon Foundation, the John L. Santikos Fund of the San Antonio Area Foundation, AARP, Wells Fargo, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the Texas Historical Foundation, and individual donors like you. Did you know that we are building the nation's first museum dedicated to Mexican American civil rights history? Yes, we are, and we need your support. Please visit our website, subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on social media so you can keep up with all things MACRI. Gracias and good night.
Muchas gracias.